welcome to the Earth Feels podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell. Hi, Rose.
Hey, Christine.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Still recovering from COP25. Having a shift. So,
And here we are talking about where that's leading us.
Yes. And our topic for today is, how do we navigate this collective dark night of the soul? So in preparation for today's podcast, I was doing research like I always do. And I came across a few lines written by a woman named Beth Hedquist. And she has a business called Sacred Discoveries. She does a lot of shadow work. And I reached out to Beth, and she has graciously given us permission to just read these few lines. And we'll include the link to her website should you be more interested. So here goes. Our world is experiencing a collective dark night of the soul. I feel angry. I feel afraid. I feel hurt. Not just for myself, but for all those who are being marginalized, oppressed, discarded, discriminated against. For all those who do without so others can have more than they need. For all those who are blind to the truth that we are not separate and that the harm we do to others, we do to ourselves.
Very well said. Thank you, Beth and Rose, for reading that.
Yeah, it just really resonates in light of everything that's going on here in the States, kids in cages, the Muslim bans, it's just craziness right now.
Obstruction at COP25.
And yes, COP25, I think that just kind of put me over the top. So what do you describe a dark night of the soul? Because you do a lot of shadow work in your healing business.
So a personal or a collective? Are we talking personal on the personal level?
Well, I think what we're experiencing now is the collect. Everybody is having their own own dark night of the soul, and then it just is like this reverberation that we're all like, ah.
Well, and
that's how it feels to me.
Yes, and not everybody. Some people are numbed out.
Right. Okay, so those of us who are feeling who are feelers, who live in our heart center,
and the scientists.
And the scientists, they're in there. They're knowing what's happening. Yeah, there's just a lot right now.
So it has a lot of pain associated with it. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the shadow. So the dark night of the soul is a specific term, and actually, for me, when I hear that term, I think of Psalm 23.
Into the valley of death. Yeah.
I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff comfort me. And for me, the shadow work that I do on a personal level, one-on-one with people that come to see me, is about recognizing that being human is being both dark and light. And you can't have light without shadow, but at the same time, you can't let the shadow completely overwhelm the light. And sometimes it can, personally and collectively. Now that's what's happening. It feels like that's what's happening, that the darkness is overcoming the light. But this time of year, of course, is solstice. So on Saturday, December 21st, I think it's at 11 p.m. your time, 8 p.m.
Eastern time.
Yeah, on the Pacific coast here is solstice, and that has been for millennia. When we were more connected with nature, all of humanity recognized that this is the shortest day of the year and the longest night. And that's what it feels like we're in collectively. We're in a very long night, and it feels like the sun isn't going to come up again. That's what it feels like. But that is what the solstice is about, what the celebration of the light is, what giving birth is like. Yeah, that is, think about that dark passage, dark night of there's no, you don't know when you're being born what is going to happen at the end of this pain and this darkness and this messiness. And so I think it's really appropriate after the debacle Madrid, where
Yes, debacle is a good word.
yeah, where so disappointed. I've read so much and heard so much about how people are just upset and angry, fiercely angry. I would say it's a good anger. It's an anger that's going to move mountains, because that's what has to happen in the next 12 months before the next COP. And Rose and I have been having our own discussions about what that looks like for us. And we're going to be talking more about that in 2020. But it really is not, it's so tempting to run and hide from the darkness. And especially in our culture, because we worship youth, we worship the light, we're all about, and if we're spiritual, often it's about connecting with the divine, not connecting with the earth. And yet here we are in the physical plane, and it really is about being in our bodies, connecting with our bodies. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, and being present. And so feeling the pain, there's no other way through it. Being born, you don't get born unless you bear the pain, both the mother and the baby.
Yeah, to me, the dark night of the soul, it well, personally, it's a period of utter desolation. You feel disconnected, empty, and separated from the divine. Separated, you feel alone, and lost, hopeless. And so much of the feelings that have come up this past week after COP25, and the people that I'm having conversations with, there's this hopelessness that people are feeling. But yet the dark night of the soul it's an indication of change is happening, right? It's the harbinger of things are happening. It lets us know that we can't continue how we've been living. We need to make change. And so there's no growth without change. And so we're feeling this disappointment that everything we've known or thought we've known, I think for me, it's like there's just this huge disillusionment that I feel like has shattered kind of my worldview. But I do have a tendency to be kind of Pollyanna. So it's like a mirror that's just been shattered. And where do we go from here? How do we regain our footing? How do we walk through the valley of the shadow of death and not be scared?
And I think I would even say it's okay to be scared, but do it anyways. This is a scary time. If you look at the science, if you listen to even a bit of Dr. Peter Carter's talk that we posted 20 minutes.
We'll post that again this week, so you don't have to go back and look at the last episode.
So it's scary, and we're going to do it anyways. And we do it by doing it together as much as we can.
Well, I've been having a discussion with a listener who Bella Casarella. I'll give her a shout out here, and we've been talking a lot about the difference between despair, which we can fall into, which is kind of that numbing, and feeling the versus grief, feeling the grief of it. And grief kind of propels you into it's more active. Despair is more inactive.
Like giving up almost.
Right. Yeah, you rolling in a ball and just rocking yourself, soothing yourself. Versus grief is feeling the pain, crying, wailing if you need to at the injustice of it, and then gathering all your little marbles and okay, being spurred on into action.
Well, I have a tweet here from Dr. Elizabeth Sawin. Her handle is at Beth Sawin, Sawin, on Twitter. And she says, self-fulfilling climate change prophecies. We're screwed. It's too late. Nothing I do matters, and people will never change. However, she continues, more self-fulfilling climate change prophecies. Small changes can snowball. What the human mind has made, the human mind can remake. A different world is possible. And a change in me comes with the potential of change in everything that is connected to me.
Nice. So that is, I mean, what we focus on expands.
Yeah, and still we can't be too Pollyanna, if you like, about it. This is tough, and in many ways, in ways that most people in North America don't realize yet, our way of life is ending. It has to end. Climate change is ending it. And on the other hand, I would say that it's about time. There's been a lot of people who've been paying a big price for our way of life, and it's time for us to stop consuming enough for 5 planets. We only have one planet. And we can, what the human mind has made, the human mind can remake, and we can remake it better. Who's to say this is the best uh, way of living out there? Who's to say that? It's just what we know, the unknown.
Yeah, and as part of the human condition, at least I know for in my own personal dark night of the soul, I want to know the outcome. I want, and that's the struggle is, okay, so you don't really know. You think you're in control. You're not in control. Can you have faith and trust that you're walking towards the light?
Well, and that's what I would also say, walk through the fear, but also walk towards the light, because there are two choices, right? You can walk towards the dark too. And there are people who are doing
we won't
that.
go into that.
Yeah, we do not need more of that. And there are always things that can be done. I mean, think about if you were living in Britain when the German army had advanced across Europe and was literally on the shores of France looking across at the Channel.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty close. There's a channel there now.
Right.
It's not that far. And in fact, they didn't have the military boats to get the British and French troops trapped on Dunkirk. So it became a volunteer initiative as well as military, where Britain's fishermen from all up and down the coast brought out their boats and got done what it needed to be done in that moment in time, and they mobilized. They could have given up, but the miracle of Dunkirk happened. Mm-hmm. It looked hopeless. Mm-hmm. It really did. We need the equivalent in climate change right now, but you can never predict it ahead of time.
Yeah. Very, very heavy time. Very heavy
Mhm.
time.
And I think we just acknowledging that is important, because there are people out there who may be listening to us who feel so devastated and overwhelmed and so in the middle of grief. And I would just say to them, that reaction is completely normal. You are normal. What's going on out there, that's insanity. Strip mining, strip mining the earth, polluting our waters, polluting our climate, that is insanity. Okay? So it's normal to have this reaction,
Mm,
and
mhm,
know that you're not the crazy one.
mhm. Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing this week, um, when I wake in the morning, and that it's like a death, right? It is a grief that you sleep and you're in la la land, and then you wake up and you're okay for the first few minutes, and then it hits you again. Like you remember, oh my God. So what I've been trying to do is sit and meditate first thing, and go to a place, visualize what I want it to look like. And
Mm.
I don't know what I want it to look like. It's sunny, it's calm, it's I'm at the ocean, it's restful. I'm surrounded with laughter and love, and try to stay for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long I can, stay in that feeling of love, because I'm a great believer that what the energy that we vibrate at is what we are attracting. And if all become desperate at the same time, it's not a good thing. So,
Mhm. Nice. I like that.
and I mean, and quite frankly, I've had to do it multiple times during the day, some days, but just grounding ourselves, and in the knowledge that we will make it through. It won't look like it has looked in the past, but we will make it through. There's a quote, and I should have written it down so that I could. That it's something about sunrises and sunsets can be just as beautiful as sunrises, and we're kind of in the sunset of a certain paradigm. And can we live and enjoy the beauty of what is there right now, and live that as full as possible, with our hearts open to adapt to what's coming next?
And with the uncertainty that we really don't know what is coming next. I mean, we know that change is coming, and it so much depends on our collective actions in the next 8 years. And so um, I love that advice. Enjoy the sunset, knowing with that unknowing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's tough, especially for the Western mind. We like action.
Well, one thing we know is that direction is not coming from at the top. So that has been, there's no one coming to save us. We are saving ourselves.
We are the cavalry.
We are the cavalry. And it's going to
Although
be
I have an Indigenous a friend who would say, "Well, that's not such a good thing." But I'll take that away.
okay.
Delete that.
We are who we've been waiting for.
Like
That's somebody's quote. I don't know who said that, but we are who we've been waiting. We are the people we've been waiting for.
that.
And so there's that's sobering, but it's also, it's good information to have. We're not dreaming anymore. We're not fantasizing anymore. We're not waiting anymore. It will be what we make of it as individuals, collectively.
Yeah.
It's not coming from the top down. It's going to have to come from the bottom up.
I just want to show you. I've got my candle here beside
Nice.
me, a symbol of exactly what you were talking about. We need to each light our candle, light our light, love ourselves, look after our friends and family, and look after our piece of earth.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome the strangers when you can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I need some good news.
Yeah, give me some good news, Rose. Hit me with the good news.
So, one of our listeners, Judith Passmore, sent me this article today, and it is the first gas station ditched oil for electric vehicle charging. So, the first gas station in America to ditch oil for 100% electric vehicle charging opens in Maryland.
Wow.
And this local gas station, it's called RS Automotives, has been around since 1958. The owner, Depeshwar, Depeswar Doley, he was unhappy with the way oil and gasoline companies were structuring the contracts, and he decided just to go 100% EV charging. And his daughter, his 17-year-old daughter, kind of put him over the top. So kids, anybody who's listening out there, kids, your parents can be convinced to do things differently. Woo!
So I wonder what's the model? They plug in.
I don't know that. It's in this town of Tacoma Park, Maryland. There were only 2 other electric charging stations in there. In that town. And there are in the state of Maryland, which I don't know if you know this, but the state of Maryland is very small. There's almost 21,000 registered electric vehicles in Maryland. And so, and they also have an electric taxi service. So they need more charging infrastructure. And he's the first to do it. So that's, yeah. So thank you for that, Judith. That was very, very cool.
Thank you, Judith.
We needed that uplift.
Yes. Please send us more good news, folks.
Yeah. Anybody, if you have any good news that you feel has just lifted you, please shoot us an email or go to our Facebook page, and we'll give you a shout out for that. The other good news is Goldman Sachs. Huge news. Goldman Sachs has declined to be funding oil exploration in the Arctic.
Woohoo!
And that's just amazing because
who knew Goldman Sachs would be the good guys?
I know. So you never know what's coming around the bend. You just keep visualizing. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You don't know if it's alive or dead. You just picture alive and keep going for it. So yes. two really nice things this week. But Goldman Sachs, I mean, that's huge. I don't know what their investment portfolio has looked like in the Arctic. I don't know what make them decide to change. Obviously, they're seeing that fossil fuels are not the investment that the return on the investment is not what they want it to be. I'm assuming, because these guys follow the money, don't they?
Yes, they do. And that's a conversation we're going to be talking about more in 2020.
Yes, it is.
Following the money.
Follow the money. So what about an action step, Christine?
Our action step. Well, we had talked about posting an article from Brain Pickings.
Maria Popova.
Yeah, the soul expanding value of difficulty. So if you're feeling overwhelmed in the next couple of weeks over the holidays and this was actually published in 2015, but it focuses on the poet Rainer Maria Rilke and the letters that he wrote to a young poet on how great sadnesses can transform us. And I'm going to, while we're here, just read the last quote from his letter. It's from Letters to a Young Poet. And it says, "So you must not be frightened. If a sadness rises up before you larger than any you have ever seen, if a restiveness like light and cloud shadows passes over your hands and over all you do, you must think that something is happening with you, that life has not forgotten you, that it holds you in its hand. It will not let you fall. Why do you want to shout out of your life any agitation, any pain, any melancholy, since you really do not know what these states are working upon you?" So that's just a little snippet of that article, and we're going to
Mm.
put a link to it. And I invite you as your action step, read that and contemplate how difficult times may be actually good for our souls.
Climate change is happening for us, not just to us.
There you go. Doesn't say it's easy, but it's soul expanding. So our sanity tip is, because this can be a stressful time for a whole bunch of reasons.
Family.
Family, busyness, loneliness, high expectations, unmet high expectations, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a whole
maybe unrealistic expectations.
So a sanity tip is to take time this week as soon as possible to make a list of the stressors that you know are coming up for you, whatever it usually is over the holiday season. You know, specific members of the family, specific days, I don't know, specific foods, whatever it is for you. Make a list of your top 5 stressors, top 3, whatever it is for you, and then jot them down, and beside it, just make a quick plan for the way you can healthily de-stress over them. And I would emphasize healthily, because yes, it is tempting to have that second or third glass of wine.
Bottle.
But this is about, you know, a long-term sanity, not just short-term coping. And so that's a possibility, but I might suggest, I don't know, just leaving the room temporarily, going for a walk if it's possible, closing the door and sitting down for 5 minutes and taking quiet time, whatever it is. Maybe eating that extra cookie. I don't know. I'm not judging, but keep that list handy, because you want it handy when you're stressed. So maybe you take a picture of it on your phone so you can just pull it up. You don't want to be frantically looking through files trying to find your plan when you're already frazzled.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
make a plan though, and you can get through the holidays. Rose and I are going to get through it with our sanity intact. So you can
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
That's our plan.
Well, so then we'll see you after the first of the year. Is that the plan? Okay.
Yes, but for our listeners, in case you miss us over the next 2 weeks, don't worry. We're going to be posting on the 2 Fridays over the holidays 2 Best in Climate podcasts, which is Rose or I reading an article that we feel is one of the best articles out there, talking about what's going on with climate change right now. So stay tuned for that.
Remember to keep breathing. We're all in this together.
Exactly. And I'm going to read the Charles Dickens quote.
Okay, sounds good.
From A Tale of Two Cities. Both Rose and I feel like this is an appropriate description of the time we're living in, but apparently it was appropriate back then as well. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic or epoch, depending if you're American or Canadian, of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair.
I might have to get a copy of that book.
Have you read A Tale of Two Cities?
I have never read it.
Oh my goodness, it's one of my favorites.
Is it?
I love it, but my girls, I can never get them to read it, so you may not like it either.
Well, I like how it starts out, and it feels like the dichotomy of where we're living right now.
Yeah.
Feels very apt. And I'm looking for clues how to get through. So it might be a good read.
It is. Okay. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Happy holidays. That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget to subscribe to Earth Feels on your favorite podcast host so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me. You see, your mother, she has been suffering, and the truth is told beneath the sea. So raise your voices